Rev up your engines!
Hey, I recently test drove a 2010 Dodge Charger. Everything was going normal till I came to a stop, and then it kind of juddered as it went back down into first gear. You were test driving it. Don't buy it. It's got some kind of transmission problem. Those things are notorious for transmission problems. No surprise, because it's a 10-year-old muscle car. Guys generally beat the heck out of them. You buy one used, you're buying somebody else's problem. If it didn't do that, and you took it to a mechanic and he checked out and said it was okay, still you wouldn't pay much money for the thing, because their values, muscle car values, plummet real fast. The ones that are worth money, the really old ones from the 60s and stuff, it took a long time for them to be worth a lot of money. You had to take care of them, spend money maintaining them too. But the modern ones, I don't think they'll ever become collector's items because they make them. They're mass-produced cars, and I don't think they'll ever have any really high value. So you don't pay much for a used one. Got to make sure that it's in good shape. And with that, don't even think about buying it. Lucas 713. I need an alignment on my 96 Toyota 4Runner. How can I find out which alignment shop to go to? My grandfather was a mechanic back in the day. He's long gone. And he was always very leery about sending customers' cars somewhere else to get alignments done. They're dealing with thousandths of an inch here and there. A lot of people can be crooked about that. Try to sell you all kinds of stuff. More customers come to me that came from a dishonest alignment shop that said, well, they were going to try to sell us all 4 struts and this and that. And I check it out. And the only thing I can find wrong is like a ball joint that's loose that needs replacing. And the struts are still perfectly fine. Just because they're old doesn't mean that they're worn out. If you've got a good car, I got replacement struts from my wife's Lexus. Chinese company sent them to them free for me to try out. I put them on. It rode worse than her 16-year-old worn struts did. Saying the old ones can still last quite some time. So you got to find an honest running alignment shop. Now, if you're in the Houston area, I use Cotton Brothers on 500 Fairview. I've used them for 40 years. Wherever you are, ask your friends. Do a little Googling. They can sell you the farm. They could even sell me the farm sometimes on alignment work because it's the thousandths of an inch. I can't see that. You got to have a fancy machine, and now they've got laser levels. So you got to find somebody you can trust. And from my experience, stay away from the chain stores, because the chain stores, they generally are always trying to sell you stuff. The service advisors in there, they get a kickback percentage of what they sell. So they're always trying to sell you a whole bunch of stuff. So try to find a shop that does front on alignments. That isn't a big chain. Retromatic. I got a 2000 Corolla hatchback. Recently had the engine mount changed, and after that the car's vibrating like mad. First thing you want to find out is, where did those motor mounts come from? Because I had that problem in the past myself. I'm always trying to save my customers money. Like with that Toyota. If I go to the dealer, I've seen motor mounts, some of those things be $250. Then you find, oh, you can get these aftermarket Chinese ones for like $40. Scotty won't try them anymore. If they're off even a few thousandths of an inch, the engine's going to vibrate like mad. My bet is they use cheaper mounts. I had that happen to me, and I never want to do that again, because changing motor mounts is a gigantic pain in the rear end. It's not something you want to do. It's dirty grease. You got the engine jacked up, kind of dangerous. Something slips, you got your finger in there, and the engine decides to use your hand as a mount. You can say goodbye to your fingers. Always stick to the OEM factory mounts when you're doing transmission or motor mounts. That's my experience, and believe me, I learned the hard way. RB 1974. Hey, I failed the New Jersey emissions inspection, PO 420. Hey, for when I read about New Jersey, it's so polluted there, why do they even care? That means that your catalytic converter is working inefficiently. Now, you can watch my video where I show the failed catalytic converter, cleaning it. You can get some of this lacquer thinner, put it in with at least 5 gallons of gas in the tank, 5 to 10 gallons of gas. Driving around, it might make the light go out, and then, it's fixed. Now, if that doesn't work, unfortunately, a lot of times you got to buy a new catalytic converter, and they're not cheap. And realize the catalytic converters generally don't go bad on their own. There's a reason that they go bad. Say the engine is running rich and too much gas is going inside. That will flood out a cat and eventually wreck it. That's your problem. You put a new cat on, it passes the test, and then next year the light comes back on because you didn't fix the underlying problem. It can get complicated. That's why I say try the cleaner first, and if the light goes out, get it inspected. I've had people drive cars for 10 years with that code, and they still ran perfectly fine. Lori Selstrom. Hey, Scotty, I got a 22-year-old Mercedes SOK 200. I only put 1,000 miles on it. Do I have to change the oil every year, or could I push it 2 or 3 years? You got to change your oil once a year, period. What happens is build up things degrade. You run a car, especially with you're not running that many mileage on it. Byproducts of burning gasoline in Earth's atmosphere is water vapor. You do get water that intrudes into the engine parts. Now, that eventually will degrade the oil amongst dirt and carbon and everything else. 65 miles an hour all the time like a big truck. Hey, those guys change their oils every 20 or 30,000 miles. All that heat driving down the road in the wind, it vaporizes all that water vapor and it doesn't intrude upon the oil and have the problem. But you're not driving much, so change it once a year anyway. Goes out, says Scotty, I drive my car in the spring or winter. Car runs good with no overheating, but in the summer it starts to run hotter. What could be wrong? You want to check the cooling fan operation. If that's not working right, hey, that's what's going to happen. Turn the AC on. See if you have two fans, if both blow full speed. Some morning, start it up and park it in the driveway with the hood open and watch it. And see if the cooling fan comes on and off like it should when it gets hot and then cools down and turns off. If that's not working, you got a cooling fan problem. Now, if the cooling fans are working perfectly fine, then odds are you need a new radiator. Because in the summer, it's the hottest. So your radiator has to dissipate the same amount of heat that it always dissipates from the engine burning gasoline, but it's hotter outside. So if your radiator is weak and it can't dissipate heat as well when it's hot outside, it means it's just flat worn out. And I've had radiators that look perfectly fine inside and out. When I checked them out, I checked everything else. I couldn't find anything else wrong, so I said, it's got to be the radiator. Then I take the radiator out, throw it away, put a new one, and then the problem goes away. So odds are your radiator is just flat worn out. They will wear out with modern cars because they're aluminum and plastic. And the aluminum doesn't rust, but it corrodes. And when it corrodes internally, you really can't even see it that much. But then it puts a little layer and the heat dissipation layer goes down. See it all the time. Geronimo77 says, Scotty, what do you think of the failure of the Renault and Fiat Chrysler merger? I'm laughing at that one. Hey, when they were talking about merging, originally, of course, I said 2 wrongs don't make a right. That's Fiat Chrysler merging. And then 3 wrongs definitely don't make a right. That's Renault Fiat Chrysler merging. Sears and Kmart merged a few years back. How'd that work out? They're closing all the Sears stores down. The Kmart stores are shutting a bunch of them down. From what I read, it fell apart because they couldn't agree on stuff. Because it's not as simple as you think. Even take Renault and Nissan merge. It happened way back in 2000. Well, Renault owns a certain percentage of Nissan. I don't know, it's 45% or something. But Nissan owns a certain percentage of Renault. It's less than that. I think it's 27% or something. But it's very complicated. It has to do with property and intellectual rights of who owns what. And from when I read, the Japanese at Nissan didn't want to have to share all their stuff with the French at Renault. At any rate, I think it's a great thing that it's not happening because the cars are bad enough as it is at Fiat Chrysler. If you put Renault into the mix, whew, you might as well be buying papier-mâché cars then. For once, a political reason comes out to be a good end result, as far as I'm concerned, that they aren't merging. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.